Good morning. It is Sunday the 14th of December and this is my outlook for the week ahead. Okay, so we'll start with NASDAQ. So we've had this move off the lows, momentum rounded out, started balancing for 4 or 5 days. I had an attempt at the 2-month composite low, which is October and November's value overlapping. Unable to get above this 2-week composite high, which is from this period here. And on Friday, we just got quite a clean rejection at this local point of control and sold off into the 2-month point of control. So the question now is, are we finding acceptance within this 2 months of value? And if so, we're going to trade back down towards the composite lows, which is what I expect to happen ultimately. So any bounce I would expect to be capped at monthly val, previous week val, and this composite value high around 25.4. So potentially looking for fresh shorts here to target the VWAP levels at least, but really just looking through a rotation through value back towards this 24,400 area. And I think for the time being, I'm just going to assume that we continue to build out this range. So that's it. That's really it for NASDAQ. Unless we can reclaim this 5-day composite, I think we're going lower. So I would be looking for shorts from this composite high, anticipating that we just go into a rotational environment between these extremes for the time being. That's really it. I don't think there's any reason to assume anything else for the time being other than range bound price action. So I'm just expecting value to be built out. Obviously, if I drag this over, value is going to move a bit higher. So potentially, looking for reactions at these levels. But for now, just expecting us to continue to build out value in this region. So that's it for NASDAQ. I don't think there's much else to say. Let's move to Bitcoin next. I've got some equity stuff, but I won't go into all the equities detail. All right, so BTC. So, the key thing to mention here, I think, is that we just haven't seen any real spot buying in any meaningful way into these range highs. So each move up has really been perps driven, sometimes short squeezes, sometimes fresh positioning into the highs. But in any case, we just haven't seen any real spot interest as we've come into these areas. And therefore, I think we're probably going to have to go lower to find some demand. What else to say about this? I mean, obviously, structurally, okay, we've made higher lows and higher highs, but as I said, the only thing that really matters is this 94K level, which is the 14-week composite low from last winter. So between November and February, we printed these 14 weeks of value. Haven't found any exceptions above that level yet. So 94K, definitely the line in the sand. As I said, there are a couple of, if we should just trade up from here, which I don't think is the most likely scenario, you really want to just see, a spot participation, but probably a decent high volume candle through this area. And then either a quick retest of an imbalance, which leads to us trading higher, or just building out value up here, similar to what we did here on the way down. I think either of those situations is good for bulls, but we really need to see that spot participation. I think the more likely scenario here, as I say, is that we're going to trade lower. So pending any volatility over the weekend, the two areas of interest are going to be 87K, where we've seen pretty big perps bid appear over the last day or two, maybe just for a short-term bounce. And I would just think, bigger picture, are we going to go for November's low? I think that's also quite a likely one. So, this may take more time. We may need to build this out here. Spend a bit of time chopping in this area. It was thin here, so we've kind of started to build out this range a bit. But still a bit of a void around the sort of 87 to 89K area. So if we should get a bounce off 87, I wouldn't necessarily expect that to be the bottom. Perhaps some more chop here in the range before ultimately we go for the low. And I'm bullish against previous year's value high, right? I mean, this is a huge level of support. So any wick below here I would anticipate to be defended before we trade up to potentially this 101, 102K level, being the 14-week composite high and the point of control of this consolidation. Also previous month value high and quarterly VWAP. So if we look at it from a VWAP perspective, on the yearly, right, we're trading into support. Okay, we're trying to hold above the developing years value low, but as we know, these retests can be quite messy, and I wouldn't be surprised to see another deviation below. But as long as we don't find acceptance under 80K, then or 80, 81, been previous year's value high, then I think we're all right. So yeah, potentially could well see this low get taken out, is my point here. Right, that's the yearly. The quarterly is trying to shift bullish. So we have, we're attempting to hold within the developing quarters value, but again, can't rule out a sweep of that low. So it could well get messier than this. Obviously, quarterly val is holding the support for the time being, but I wouldn't necessarily expect that to continue to be the case. So we've seen good reactions off this level, just playing intra-range up to the highs each time. But can't guarantee that's going to hold a support. So trying to shift bullish to rotational, but not quite happened yet. And the monthly is probably the most interesting thing to talk about. So we've been capped at previous month's VWAP. This is November's value. So yes, could well see a deviation below, but really just expecting us to build out multiple months of value is what my sort of higher time frame thesis is for the time being. So any sort of shift below, failed break below, and then a reclaim of November's val, we can trade up to VWAP and then November's value high, essentially, which just lines up with that 1017K level. So that's really it. It's quite neutral, but we're obviously trading below VWAP. The week's not looking too great, right? So we're trading below the developing week's value and seem to be losing it, pointing to potentially a retest lower down as well. So yeah, for me, everything's pointing lower for now. And as I say, we've just had that bid appear at that 87K level as well. So do they intend to get filled? Very, very possibly. And if so, maybe a decent level for a mean reversion bounce. I think that's about it for Bitcoin right now. I mean, nothing's really changed. We're just range bound. We still need to get above 94K. We can still go for the lows. So last week's you're just playing these nitty gritty kind of sweep setups, intra range. Quarterly val's been a good level. It's been defended over and over again. We've seen a couple of sweeps and bounces, but yeah, everything's just been bouncing back down because we haven't seen any spot follow through. For me, this is still the upside target. I'm still bullish against this level, and that's it in summary. Okay, ETH next. ETH BTC, I don't think it's looking very good, quite honestly. So yes, we got this push up last week, right into resistance, but we've been unable to hold above the 90-day VWAP, and actually we're trading back under the 7 now as well. So I think ETH is in a lot of trouble. Just looking at it from a higher time frame perspective, all we've really done is just, okay, we break the downtrend, but not really showing any signs that this wants to continue higher, failed to hold above the previous year's value low, and over time I think this is just going to continue to trade lower against BTC. So yeah, we could well see it trade up, but for now, this candle's not good, right? We've seen a big rejection from supply, and unable to hold above the 90 and 7-day VWAPs, as I say. So for that reason, yeah, I'm not really too optimistic about ETH right now. It was a good long last week, so the long, let's just clean this up. Yeah, so the long was pretty much from the 7-day VWAP. A big passive bid stepped in, and I just took it up to previous quarter's val and took profit there. And then obviously we did complete the rotation through this value area, failing a previous month value high. So, on that basis, our downside target below previous month VWAP, which is here, is previous month value low. So any push higher into the 3150 to 3200 area, I'd expect to be potentially rejected from. So if we do get a push up to here, it's only a 1 or 2% move. Previous month VWAP, previous week value high, the composite value high, and the 7-day VWAP, and this consolidation all lining up here. So in that event, there's a decent short setup. I'd probably favour the ETH short over BTC to trade it into previous month value low and the composite value low right here. And then beyond that, again, do we get a sweep into previous year's val? It's probably the better long if you wanted to long ETH, but I think it's likely to just be putting out this range for the time being, and I'd probably favour BTC over ETH, even to the long side, although we could see some short-term outperformance. So I think ETH has got cleaner setups in terms of the short side here if we should get a spike into this area, and then potentially there's a long from down here. And that's it for ETH. Let's take a look at Sol as well. I mean, to me, it looks pretty rough. So we've got this well, it's really a multi-year range now, but the multi-month range is up to 168. The value lows are the same at 125. And obviously we are consolidating below the point of control of this range and at support with big rejections on the weekly. I mean, this just looks like it imminently wants to break down. So also very strong downtrend, right? I mean, the 30 days really capping it. We've had deviations above, but not looking too good. So yeah, Sol might be the best short of all. Obviously, it was better to take it at value highs. As of now, maybe we get a spike into this area, but we have already tested this imbalance on the 4 hour. So kind of flirting with breaking down from value here, I think. Doesn't look very good. So previous year's val at 115 would be the next downside target, assuming this does go. And if it does, and we flip, 125 area into resistance, then it's really in quite a lot of trouble. I think on a higher time frame, there are two levels of interest to the downside. I mean, this is obviously going to happen. It's potentially a much longer term perspective, but the two levels of high time frame support I'm interested in are sort of at 80, where we have this low volume node, clearly support here, resistance, and then support again. So yeah, around 80 looks like an interesting level. And beyond that, maybe like 50, where we've got this imbalance on the weekly. It would just come and test this area of demand that we formed at the sort of bottom of last cycle. So, 80 and 50 really are the 2 points of interest on a high time frame basis for Solana, but yeah, it doesn't look very good right now. Beyond that, XRP still hasn't broken down really. The trend is pretty definitely bearish, but yeah, still holding on to this previous all-time high back from 2021. So can this break? And if so, I think it's going to roll over pretty hard. ZEC, I was looking at a long, but yeah, I was hoping this could trade higher, to be honest, towards this 500 level. As it was, we've rejected around this previous month val, and it seems to be starting to accept within this previous composite. That may well be the high end. I was hoping to take a short a bit higher up. Doesn't look too likely now. There's been some news about Wintermute selling a lot of their inventory over the past month or so, since 1010. So it's, yeah, potentially a good, something to explain, this weakness we've seen on alts, right? I mean, with a few exceptions, the vast majority of alts have just gone down in a straight line. Fartcoin's been interesting to trade with a good range, well-defined range, nicely capped at the 90-day VWAP. So until we break either side of this, then I would just continue to assume that it mean reverts. Hype, I think it's ranging. Took the short here on Thursday to profit at the lows. I think it's just going to potentially range here, but ultimately still in a downtrend, and I think there's still a good probability we go towards the low 20s. That's about it for now. Don't want to carry on unnecessarily. Obviously we're coming to Christmas, so I'm pretty much checked out personally. I mean, traded this leg down pretty well. Traded this long. I can't remember if I took a short, load of short what's on alts here. Took this long. After that, I've kind of lost interest. There were so many good opportunities, trading opportunities during this. This was good. This was good. This was good. And now it's just like much tighter. I'm just kind of losing interest. So I'd rather just chill and wait for better opportunities to come. And they will, right? I mean, it's not going to be too long before things turn around again. And I think we will trade up from this area. And I think we're just seeing a big reset of open interest. In fact, it's just worth looking at that. While I'm here, why not? I'm not going to bother actually. Let's leave it there for today, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.